Welcome to Learning Equinox. By now, you've had a fair idea of Learning Equinox and the kind of educational programs we do. We shall continue to feed you with knowledge in our upcoming videos. Besides the different series that we have been doing, we shall also keep you informed on the various courses and programs on a regular basis. So this new year, we look forward for a lot of engagement online. If you find this educative and informative, do stay tuned by subscribing to our channel at Learning Equinox. And do not forget to hit on to the bell notification to get notified every single time we upload our videos. You can also stay connected with us on our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram to stay connected with latest at Learning Equinox. In our series on banking literacy today, we shall be talking about checks in our Indian banking system. For this, let us first look at what is a cheque. A cheque is a negotiable instrument. It is an unconditional order to the drawer's bank to pay a certain sum of money as mentioned in that instrument from the drawer's account to the person to whom it is issued or to the order of a specified person or the bearer. Cheques are negotiable instruments, which means it can be transferred to a third party. Thus, someone who receives this cheque and transfers this to someone else also, if nothing is mentioned on it. So, this brings us to the topic of today, which are the different types of cheques. And let us understand more in detail how they can be issued and what are the ways in which they can be made, whether they are negotiable or not negotiable in different scenarios. So, here are the various cheques that can be issued. Let's look at it one by one. The first one is the bearer cheque. Now, a bearer cheque can be easily encashed by the person in whose favor it is mentioned, like whose name is mentioned, or anyone who is the holder of this cheque also can encash it. Thus, it's called a bearer cheque. So, the bearer of the instrument can encash it. So, in this way, it is a negotiable instrument. It is negotiable. This can be negotiable simply by delivery. So, when I mean by delivery, the person who gets the cheque can encash it. There is no endorsement required in this case. That means endorsement, when I mean, is by placing your signature and endorsing it to somebody. So, there is no endorsement required in this case. The party in whose favor it has been issued does not even have to sign on it. But if the amount is high, generally banks ask for identification. Since it can be easily transferred by delivery to another person, hence the risk involved is very high. The next type is the order cheque. Here on the cheque, the word or bearer is cancelled. So this also can be transferred by the party to another, and hence it is also a negotiable instrument. But here endorsement is mandatory, means the person in whose name it has been issued can endorse it to someone else. So this can be transferred by sign of the person along with necessary identification. Now, the next two types of cheques we are going to be seeing is about the crossing of the cheque. Now, crossing of the cheque can be a plain simple crossing by putting two lines across or by an account pay mode. Let's look at both of them. Firstly, let's look at a cross cheque. A simple crossing can be just done by placing two lines across so that it becomes payable to any account. When any sort of crossing is done, be it cross cheque or account pay cheque, both these checks cannot be encashed. Means you cannot withdraw money from these checks, but they will be transferred in somebody's account. Now, when I'm doing a simple crossing, just a simple crossing, here the party mentioned on the check can endorse it to another by a mere signature. The only difference here is that it cannot be encashed but will be transferred to that person's bank account only. And when I do an account pay check, an account pay check on the other hand refers to the word mentioned account pay, as you can see on the screen in between the two lines. This makes it non-transferable and has to be credited in the account of the person in whose name it has been issued. Thus, this becomes a non-negotiable instrument. Now, let's also look at what is special crossing. Here, it will be crossed and mentioning the bank name in between two lines, as you can see on the screen. This means that it can be deposited by the party to whom it has been issued or to any other name, but in the same bank as it is mentioned in the between the two lines. Thus, it can be endorsed and hence negotiable. So it is still a negotiable instrument, but yes, it can be deposited in an account only in that particular bank, which is mentioned in between the two lines. Now let's look at post-dated checks. When you want to make a transfer at a later date, so you can put a future date and issue the check. This could be due to many reasons. So you see that the date on the screen is not the today's date, it's a future date. This you can do it for payments of loan like EMI of your payment. So banks generally collect these post-dated checks and deposit it on the due date. Or sometimes you can give a post-dated check if you know that you do not have sufficient money in your account. And let's say you know that your account is going to be credited at a particular date where you'll have funds. So you can issue a check with a future date. So these are post-dated checks. The next one is a self-check. So when you want to withdraw the cash from your own account, okay, you issue a self-check. So it's simply that you say it's to yourself. You do not cross a self-check and you also do not have to cancel the bearer. So you or any of your representative who goes to the bank can withdraw the cash from this check. The next one is the banker's check. This is issued by banks. This can be issued by a bank on its own behalf or on behalf of its customers. On its own behalf, maybe let's say you want to do an FD withdrawal and you've asked the bank to give you a check. In that case, the bank will issue a banker's check since it's the bank which is issuing the check. Similarly, if you want, generally for payment of fees from your bank to the institution or the school's bank, it has to be transferred. In this case, you instruct your banker to issue a banker's check to that institute. So those type of checks are banker's check. The advantage of this type of check is that it will not be bounced because the bank makes sure that sufficient funds are lying in the account before issuing a banker's check. This is a not negotiable instrument and can be deposited in the same name in whose name it has been issued. Now, a banker's check can be issued for payment in the same city alone. Its validity also, like any other check, is for 3 months only. Now, let us look at a blank check. Now, blank check, what is a blank check? If you only sign a particular check and do not mention any amount on it, it's a blank check. You can or cannot mention the name and date, that's optional. You can cross the check or not cross the check also is optional, but if the amount is not mentioned, it's called as a blank check. The most important thing is that you do not mention the amount, which means the person who receives it mentions the amount on it. Now, since the amount is not mentioned, it becomes a very risky way to do transactions with your money. Many a times, bank also asks such checks in advance. So, let's say it's for a particular loan payment, then you can always, since you know the amount, you can always mention not over rupees so and so, as you can see on the screen. So, you can mention the maximum limit for which the check can be issued by stating not over rupees so and so. Now, there are other types of checks also, like a cancel check. So, if you want to give any details to anyone, like your bank account number, IFSC code, bank address, your other details of your bank, then those companies or organizations ask you for a cancel check. So, what you need to do is just place across 2 lines across the check and put the word cancelled as shown in the image. So, in this way, you are going to give a cancel check to someone. You do not date it or sign it or anything of that sort. Now, other types of checks would be stale check. A check that has crossed its validity period of 3 months is called as a stale check. No funds can be encashed against this check. Mutilated check or soiled check means that if a check is soiled or torn in any way or damaged, it is called as a mutilated check. If the marker code on the check basically is damaged in any form, then the check cannot be read by the system and hence it will be again treated as a mutilated check. The next is a gift check. Many times in games and TV shows, you will see that the checks are given away as prizes which are large in size and decorative and fancy. One can give these checks issued by any bank on payment of an extra fee. So you go to the bank and you say that I want to give a gift check. They will prepare a decorative gift check and give it to you. The recipient of this check can also place it for credit in their account, but these are not negotiable, obviously, because it's a gift to a particular person and only that person can encash it. deposited in their account. The next is the traveler's check. This can be issued to travel abroad. This is a secure way of carrying money out of country. Banks charge a small fee for issuing traveler's checks. These checks cannot be encashed without your signature, and thus they are very safe to travel. Once back from your travel, you can encash these checks in your bank account. Nowadays, travel cards are more in use than these traveler's checks. So that's all for today's video. In this video, we have covered all types of checks. In our next video, we shall look at more about crossing and cancelling of checks. Further, we shall also look at the working mechanism of credit cards in the banking system and how does various online modes of payment function. So stay tuned to Learning Equinox by subscribing to our channel. If you're keen to do a complete course on banking and finance at different levels, you can stay connected with us on Learning Equinox Facebook page and also follow us on Instagram to stay updated on the same. That's all for our discussion today. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.